I'm Rhys McKenna, and you're listening to How's That, the Cricket Podcast.
How's that? You messed about, I caught you out. How's that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of How's That, the Cricket Podcast with me, Lily.
And me, Ollie.
So, it's been a pretty mad week of cricket, hasn't it? It's been a pretty mad week. I can see your grin through the Zoom that we're on now. So, where better to start than the T20 World Cup? Do you want to get us started with that and talk us through your evening at the MCG on Sunday?
Yeah, I'd love to. We need to get We Are the Champions played in here somewhere. Because honestly, it probably was, and I'm not going to hyperbolize when I say this, it was probably the greatest moment of my life, seeing those winning runs from Ben Stokes. Seeing England win a World Cup is something that, you know, it's a dream of mine, and to see it happen, you know, in my new backyard at the MCG is absolutely wonderful. Honestly, there was the threat of rain, and we saw that Melbourne was pretty clear in the hours leading up. I'm thinking, gee, we might get a full 40 overs in here. And to see England bowl so well as we did against a wonderful Pakistan side and restrict them to, you know, in the 130s, and to then win the game and see Josh Buttler lift the World Cup, it was an amazing moment. And yeah, probably one of the best nights, if not the best night of my life.
Yeah, so like we said last week, we didn't talk about the semi-finals because they were going to happen after. But it was New Zealand-Pakistan, which Pakistan won by 7 wickets with 5 balls remaining. A bit of a collapse by New Zealand there, wasn't it? Like and you'd think, only being 4 down at the end of your 20, you'd want to have a winning score. That's one of the things that usually happens is in order to and especially when you're going to make a World Cup final out of it, you want to have a good score on the board. So obviously Pakistan beat New Zealand, which meant they were through to the final, and then India-England, which was at Adelaide Oval, which was incredible, progressed England through to the final. No wickets down for 170 off 16. I was like, what team am I watching right now? Because it does not feel like the England I've seen previously. So yeah, that was incredible. And then, like you said, that progressed on to the final. So those are the 2 semi-finals. But like we said, they're a bit outdated, so we're not going to go into too much detail there. But yeah, it's been a cool tournament, hasn't it? It's been a pretty cool tournament.
Yeah, other than the Melbourne washouts earlier in the tournament, which, being, you know, an adopted Victorian, was really frustrating. Obviously, I had the England-Australia game washed out, which was, that wasn't great. And we had obviously England losing to Ireland, you know, a lot because of the rain. Both Afghanistan games were washed out. So yeah, the Melbourne rain has, you know, not ruined the tournament, but it's put a bit of a dampener on it. I'm glad it didn't put a dampener on the final, because obviously there was rain around. It was actually raining through parts of that final, but it wasn't, you know, heavy. It wasn't heavy enough to take the players off. But it's been a wonderful tournament. Obviously, to see England win it will be a memory I'll cherish for the rest of my life. But yeah, obviously T20 World Cup's over now. England have got some ODIs to play against Australia, and then you know, we're back into Test cricket again. So it's been a wonderful tournament. Great to see England win it. Obviously, we've got in the men's game, we've got the 50 over World Cup and the T20 World Cup now, which is remarkable. Obviously, England's women's team have done that before as well. So to have the women's team have done that and now the men's team to do it, it just shows how much of a powerhouse in cricket that England is. And you've got other countries memeing us saying, you know, when we lose games like Australia, when we get battered in the Ashes, saying, oh, how bad are England? Well, we're pretty bloody good when it matters. And I was glad that we could show that on Sunday.
Yeah, no, definitely is. Been a good tournament, been a good game, and I enjoyed watching it. But yeah, so like we said, we have had so many more games in the time that we last had a conversation, but we will just resume from when we last left off. It started with Sixers and Renegades, which literally ended up in no result because of weather, which has been so brilliant this year round. Then we move on to Strikers and Hurricanes, which the Hurricanes won. It was really disappointing. Hurricanes, you know, they set a decent total, 4 for 152 off their 20, and we just couldn't chase it down. And you're thinking 129 for 4. In order to have that score after 20 overs, you'd expect to be a few more wickets down. With only being 4 down, you'd hope you get some more runs. So that was a disappointing loss from the Strikers there. And then Scorchers versus Renegades. Scorchers setting 4 for 192, which is something else. Like, that is something else. And Renegades all out for 88. Like we said, that is the Renegades that we're currently used to seeing this year. They had a win against the Thunder, but no such luck again. And then we've got Sixers and Stars. Sixers 9 for 160 off their 20, and the Stars all out for 115. Probably not one that you're going to remember too fondly.
Probably not. I just want to give a quick shout out to Nicole Bolton because her work on the microphone was unbelievable. I was watching some of that game, and I think I might have had the telly on mute perhaps when that moment happened, when she was bowled probably what she would admit as a pie, took a wicket out in the deep, and her chat on the was it the Channel 7 broadcast was unbelievably funny. So shout out Nicole Bolton. But no, as a Stars fan, probably not one that I'll remember in 2 or 3 years' time.
Nicole, if you're listening to this and you want to come on the podcast and have a chat with us, feel free to chuck us a message. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
If you're listening. But yeah, an interesting game. And like I said, now you've lost Jemima as well. So all the Indian players have gone back to India for national duties. So Bess Heath has come back into the Stars side, and Jess Kerr has come back in for the Heat. So are you happy to have Bess back? And Jemima obviously didn't have too great of a stint with the Stars. She didn't really make the most of her time there, I'd say, batting wise. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Obviously, it's never good to lose a player the caliber of Jemima Rodrigues. We wish her all the best for her time in India, but Bess Heath is a good player to have back in. Obviously, she started the tournament with the Stars, played the first couple of games before she had to leave. But obviously, English player, she's done well back in England playing cricket. So yeah, I'm very happy to have her back, and hopefully she can have a good last couple of games of the tournament for the Stars.
Yeah, it's good to see her back, that's for sure. I like seeing these younger players get the experience. But then moving on to the next game. Now, this was such a weird day. It was Hurricanes and Heat. Now, I was planning on going with my friends to this game until I woke up, and it was literally the worst rain I've probably ever seen in Adelaide. We were planning on going, so I was driving and I could not even see the road in front of me. Like, I could just see the lines where I was going each time I progressed down the road. But it was that bad, like it felt like the rain was going to break the window. It was awful. So the fact that we got a game in that evening was something that shocked me, because that weather was so bad. But it was reduced to 13 overs, and it was such a strange game. Like we said, there was barely anyone there. But we ended up having our picnic in the end. Obviously, well played by Mignon de Prier, who made player of the match with 37 runs, but he only setting 100, which is probably not what you want when you get in a rain affected game. You want to try and get the score up there as much as you can. But Grace Harris 41, Laura Harris 32, and then not any good scores really from there. But literally every single bowler from the Hurricane side took a wicket. Macy Gibson, Nicola Carey, Heather Graham, Hayley Jensen, and Molly Strano all took 1 wicket each, which is something you don't see very often. Literally every bowler taking 1 wicket. But yeah, that was that game. Such a strange day for sure. If you're in Adelaide, you'd know what I'm talking about. And then moving on, our next game is Sixers and Scorchers. Scorchers batting first, setting 4th, 176, which is actually a really good score from the Scorchers. They've set some good scores here. But the Sixers, too good, managed to chase that down. On the last ball, they ended up on 4th, 180. Alyssa Healy was the self-explanatory player of the match with 107 not out. Just so good. What can you say? Elise Perry, 48. Ashley Gardner, 14. No other scores around that. But when you've got Alyssa Healy scoring 100, you don't need anyone else to score well, really.
I mean, to be fair, I was thinking it was a nice cameo from Ashley Gardner, because those 14 runs came off 5 deliveries, which is not bad going. But yeah, Alyssa Healy, it's hard to be surprised, because we obviously know that she can do this, but it's an unbelievable knock. Anytime you make 100 in a T20, it's mental. But she just continues to outdo herself, Alyssa Healy. She's an incredible cricketer and always has been. And it's immense how the Sixers have won this game. She obviously hits a 4 off the final ball. She'd already had 100 brought up, and she hits a boundary off the final ball to seal it. Just, there's not much you can say. We're relatively speechless, and credit to Alyssa Healy, obviously, because it's probably the most obvious player of the match that's ever been given out in the WBBL.
Yeah, no, it is. And like we said, what a great player. And then Beth Mooney also got 75 not out in that game off 51, and Marizanne Kapp scored 68 off 37. So some good scores from them there, but like we said, just not enough when you're coming up against someone like Alyssa Healy. But then moving on to the next game, this was another rained out game. So this was the one in Nuripta. It was Strikers and Thunder, the one game Thunder were playing in South Australia and there was no result. We lasted 14 overs and then it was literally Thunder. The Thunder brought the Thunder with them. It was thunder and lightning. We had to all stand under one little shelter. Everyone who was at the game, which was rammed, and try not to get struck by lightning. So that was hectic. But it's probably best to split the points because I don't think Strikers were going to win that one. They ended up on 3 for 192 off like 15 overs. So I don't think that was a really good point for the Strikers. And then it was another Melbourne derby, 8 for 148. And the Stars literally chasing that down in the last ball, which was incredible. Do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah, obviously, when I wasn't watching the game because obviously I was at the MCG, but I was out the concourse at the time and I saw that we needed about 2 a ball. I was looking through and watching on the screen. I was like, yeah, we're not going to win this game, are we? I then go inside the MCG and they had a hospitality room where the game was on. And I saw we needed 2 from 2. I'm like, how in the world did we do that? How in the world did we get close? 2 words, Annabelle Sutherland. That's why we won that game. 62 not out of 29 is unbelievable. Nice work from Bess Heath, 31 off 35, and Kim Garth just over on a ball 16. But Annabelle Sutherland has been immense so far in this Australian cricketing summer. She's been incredible. We've not even hit summer yet, and she's had a mental Australian summer, if we can even call it that. But 62 off 29 after taking 3 wickets in the Renegades innings. I know that we said that the easiest player of the match, maybe in the WBBL history, went to Alyssa Healy for her 100. But I think after the Stars got over the line, it's a pretty easy one to give it to Annabelle Sutherland after 3 wickets and 62 not out. Sasha Maloney with 4 wickets. Josie Dooley put together a really nice 50 for the Renegades in their batting innings. But Annabelle Sutherland is just all class. And if you're coming up against her this summer, good luck, because you're probably going to need it.
Yeah, she's formed into a really nice all-rounder, hasn't she? Like we said, she can get it done with the bat and ball. So it's really nice to see her progress like that. You know, last year she really excelled in her batting, but to see her be given the opportunity with the ball this year round is nice to see. But Sarah Coit, a bit frustrated for her, I'd assume. She took 3 wickets and she also reached the 100 WBBL wicket milestone. So to not get a win on the board there must have been quite frustrating. But like we said, the best team on the day was awarded that.
Yeah, and just quickly on Sarah Coit, obviously congratulations to her for hitting 100 WBBL wickets. I saw an article that was written about her saying that 100 BBL wickets was the biggest moment or her best moment so far in her career, exceeding all the stuff she's done for Australia. So maybe a little bit frustrating on the result, but I think she's come out of that game happy that she has reached that 100 wicket milestone. It was a touching article. It was a real emotional one. So, you know, obviously it's great to see Sarah Coit back doing what she does best, and great to see her reach that milestone. So all our congratulations go out to her.
Yeah. So moving on, we now have Heat and Strikers, which was the most recent game played last night as we're recording this. Now, this was an emotional roller coaster, this game. We were going fine, and then it starts absolutely hammering it down with rain. So then they reduce the overs, and then they go back out, and then they reduce the overs again. Like it was all over the place. You'd think that going into this game, Heat were at a bit of a disadvantage batting first because they were going at a nice pace, and then it started raining, and then their overs got reduced. They only had like 3 more overs to boost up the score. So that came at a bit of a disadvantage, you'd think, but they still managed to get over the line, beating the Strikers by 2 runs. It did come really close in the end, but none of the Strikers could really get going. 13 from Casey Mack, 11 from Talia, Deandra Dottin got a duck, Bridget Patterson 7, Maddie Penner 1, Amanda Wellington 4, Tegan and Gemma ducks. The only person who stuck out there for quite some time was Laura Wolfart. But yeah, it just wasn't ideal from the Strikers. Like I said, I think I've put the jinx on Maddie Penner because I was saying last week about how she's got us out some really tough spots. She didn't manage to do that last night. So I take it back.
Or she just plays really well against the Stars. Maybe she just
maybe that's what it is.
No, she's a good cricketer, Maddie Penner, and she's had a good season. But I mean, you can't be making 50s every game. That's just unrealistic. Even the best cricketers in the world don't make 50s every game. So, you know, even the best players in the world have off days, and that's probably what Maddie Penner's had here, but she's definitely a quality cricketer. So I don't think you can say too bad a word about Maddie Penner given the year that she's had so far.
Yeah. I stick by what I've said. It's just a shame that, you know, it didn't work out for her this game. But then bowling wise, Amelia Kerr with 3 for 26 earned her player of the match. Nick Hancock got 2, and Jess Kerr, Courtney Sipple and Jess Johnson all got 1 wicket each. Now, to go over the ladder, the top team at this stage is the Sydney Sixers with 17 points. Brisbane Heat are in second with 16. Hobart Hurricanes are in third with 13. Scorch is in fourth with 13 points. Strike is also down there with 13 points in fifth. Stars sixth with 8. Thunder in seventh with 5 points. And Renegades in eighth with 5 points. Now to quickly run over the BKT Golden Bat and Golden Arm Awards. The Bat, now look, at the start of the season, Georgia Redmayne was going swimmingly. She was top of that list. She was doing so well. And then due to her injury, she hasn't been playing recently. So Beth Mooney has taken over. She is in top spot currently with 431 runs. Then Georgia Redmayne's in second. Alyssa Healy's in third. Katie Max in fourth. And Elise Perry's in fifth. And then with the most wickets, Nicola Hancock is in first with 21 wickets. And then in second is Ash Gardner. In third is Jess Jonathan. Fourth is Amanda Jade Wellington. And fifth is Amelia Kerr. So that is the current runs and wicket leaders. Now, should we move over to our interview this week?
Yep.
This week, we are joined by our first female Melbourne Stars guest. We're joined by Rhys McKenna. Young player, has broken into the teams with her state stuff for Victoria and the Melbourne Stars as well. So we talked to her all about that. We talked to her about school. We talked to her about what it's like to play in a professional environment. So enjoy our interview with Rhys McKenna.
And another top edge. Could she have a second, McKenna? Yes, Lindsay Smith's got a third catch. She's the destroyer, the 17-year-old Rhys McKenna.
Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. Do you mind just telling us where you are at the moment with your cricket and what teams you're kind of associated with at this point in time?
Yeah. So right now I play for a couple teams. I play for the Victorian women's team, and then I play for the under-19 Victorian country team and the first team at Paran and Melbourne Stars.
Very nice. Lots of teams in there.
Yeah, so I play for a couple teams.
Yeah. And it's been obviously a very busy season so far, and it's only sort of just started. So you're with the Stars at the moment.
Yep.
How's it been like for you with that team, playing some different games and going to different states? How's that all been for you?
Yeah, it's been super hectic. The Stars this year, we've had a busy fixture with the first 2 weeks with a lot of travel. I think we've been to 3 different states so far. It's only the first half of the tournament. So yeah, it's been really, really busy. But yeah, the girls are really good. It's been good being busy because you don't really get bored being on the road or think to miss anyone. So yeah, it's been really good so far.
Yeah, nice.
So with obviously the Stars, you've been there for a couple of seasons now. Started BBL 07 and now into BBL 08. How did the opportunity with the Stars come around, and how did you get the call up, and what was the first thing you sort of did when you realised that you were going to sign with the green side of Melbourne?
Well, I got called up a bit late on the 07. So that year, Dry Loftman was the Stars coach, and he recently joined the Victorian women's setup as well. So I think during that Vic setup that year, and also during an underage carnival, he kind of just pulled me up as a late call up and said, kind of after the season we've seen you have in the Vic setup, we've kind of would like you to offer one at the Stars, which was lucky.
Yeah, and I might throw you under the bus a little bit here, but I remember we've obviously spoken before. We spoke on radio during a local game down here because obviously we're both on the peninsula, and we got you on for an interview. And I remember asking you which team you'd rather play for outside of Renegades, and I think given your reaction, you knew what you said. You said you'd rather play for the Renegades. Obviously that happened. You've played for the Stars. Are you happy with how it's panned out now as to how you maybe had it pan out in your dreams?
Very, very happy. I'm happy to be in Team Green.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer to say.
Yeah, I reckon it is. Anybody from the Stars listening in, I think you've got a pass mark. But if we go right the way back then to your sort of cricket backstory, maybe the reason why you support the Renegades and past, I don't know. But how did you sort of get involved into cricket, and where did the spark come from to say, right, I want to do this, for a living?
Well, I've actually got an older brother. He's 4 years older than me, so I think when he started up, I was always getting dragged to the cricket trainings late at night and then the games. And then so he always trained with the under-10s next to him. And I was, I reckon 8 or 9 years old. And then one day I told Dad, I was like, right, when Aiden trains, I'm going to train with under-10s with him. And then we got to the training and I eventually chickened out and I was like, no, I can't do it. Like, I'm too scared. And then my brother got in the car, picked me up, dragged me to the nets, and that's history.
It's one of those where, again, when we speak to a lot of female cricketers, they say, oh, it's always a dad or an older brother or something like that gets them involved into cricket. But how much do you think family, in your case, obviously with Aiden, had an effect on you as a cricketer? And is there anything you sort of maybe learned from him, obviously him being older than you? Was there something maybe you took from him, or you had that bit of support from an early age? Did that help you, do you think?
Yeah, well, for the first couple of years, I didn't really, like, since playing under 10s, I didn't really know if, like, cricket was something that I just wanted to do this for fun, because I loved playing with the boys, and just, it was like that thing on a Friday night you always look forward to. But yeah, for the first couple of years, my brother was my coach, so we always went down to the nets and had a little hit out, and he was kind of the person I learned off for the first couple of years. And then, yeah, like, it wasn't for him or my dad, I don't think I would have actually fell in love with the sport more, because it was kind of a way to, like, always bond with, like, my dad and my brother, which I think was really fun. I think that's where, like, the love kind of started for the sport, which is good, I think, because I never really, they're always there with me, like, no matter what, even if, like, during a Stars tournament or I'm away with the Vics, like, if I want to come back and have a hit, that's still always a good option for me, and I love doing it with them. So
yeah, that's brilliant. And obviously we've spoken a bit about junior cricket playing under 10. So could you just describe, your pathway through to Victorian State cricket and Melbourne Stars cricket?
Yeah, I feel like I'm quite old when I say this. It's been that many teams. Under 10s, I started down at Sky, and then I eventually, all my schoolmates, so I went to school near Patterson Lake, so all my schoolmates ended up playing for Karen. So I was like, right, I'll go play with them. So I went down and played at Karen for a couple of years, and then I played. So my brother plays for Long Island, so then I went to Long Island for a couple of years and played there. And then when I was about 14, I got a call up from my best mate, Maddie White. Her dad, Tim White, was, like, in the midst of the first team for Paran. He was like, we think you should come down, have a, like, exposed to the women's cricket. So when I was 14, I made the move to Paran, and ever since then, I've been playing there for a couple of years. My first couple of years was coached by Carl Sandrew, so I think he was a really, like, big leap in my cricket career, especially with the batting side. And then, yeah, since then, that was kind of a big exposure to, like, what I really wanted my career to kind of look like. So from there, I kind of panned out to, like, taking the Vic teams and, like, the selection a lot more serious. It's kind of what I aim to get to at a certain point. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sky and Long Island and Carrum earlier on. So they're all, for people unaware, those are all teams on the Mornington Peninsula, which is, an hour outside of Melbourne. Quite small clubs, community clubs. But how much do you think that upbringing, sort of, playing for a few different clubs on the peninsula, how much do you think that helped you sort of mold your cricket?
Yeah, massively. I think, like, especially playing in the smaller clubs, you kind of learn, like, the camaraderie of the sport and how to go around and, learn all the starting of the team values, what they actually mean and the impact they can have, especially, like, even the small things like a little team presentations at the end of the year and getting all around each other, or, like, the parents v kids matches. Like, there was all something that everyone kind of looked forward to. And yeah, it was the real, like, big pinnacle of being a team, what it looked like being a team, I think, which is also really, really important, not only for, like, cricket, but any team sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And still talking about that pathway up to your professional career, you mentioned before about the under-19s team and that pathway. Now, you've probably played in a couple of those under-19 championships now. So I've heard that from the under-19s one that's going to happen next, that's how, like, a lot of people are going to be looked at for the under-19s World Cup and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Selection's probably going to be really based on that. So are you going to be competing in that one? And if so, what are your kind of hopes there? And is that something that you're looking to get into?
Yeah, so I'm pretty lucky being, like, one of the contracted players for the Under-19 World Cup. They kind of look at, like, your Vic teams, like your women's team and your Stars teams. And then they also really, like, a big basis is the Under-19 national champs. Yeah, it's not something I'm too, like, I don't want to put my mind to it, because I feel like if I think about, like, obviously selection is something that I do want to, like, be in the line for, but yeah, I just want to kind of focus on, like, game to game and being able just to get a win for the Vic countries, and yeah, kind of just focus on the present, not worry too much about, like, selection or what might happen in January. So yeah, just trying to focus on game to game, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we'll just keep on going.
No, that's completely fair. And talking about focusing on that under-19s tournaments in the moment, are there certain things that you've learnt from them and then taken into Victorian state stuff or WBBL stuff that has kind of set you up for those bigger moments in those bigger games and tournaments?
Yeah. Well, I'm one of the lucky ones to be able to lead the Vic Country Girls into the tournament. I've been skipper there for the past 2 years, which has been a huge difference. Like, I've always been one of the younger ones in the teams who was like just kind of sideline and just like being a sponge really to the older players. But since being one of now the top age players, it's been good to get like the lead role. And yeah, it's hard. It's a lot of pressure. Like, I think the captains don't get enough credit for what kind of pressure they feel in the games. But yeah, I think having that asset of just like during a high pressure situation, like being at the top of your mark, speaking to other bowlers, speaking to your team, like kind of just making sure that they feel as less pressure as they can, just so they can do their thing, and I'm always there to support them. I think that's something I always try and bring into my game, especially in like the top age levels, like your Vics and your Big Bash. I think if you can try and put yourself in an environment where you're calm and you're collected and you can kind of focus on the now where you are, I think that's really important. As clear as you can be, I think that's the best game plan you can go for.
Yeah, certainly, 100%. And you've spoken there about how, you've gone from one of the younger teammates in a side to being captain for some sides. How much does leadership, or how much does it mean to you? And does being captain change your game? Do you think about things differently, or do you just go about it as if it's a normal game, but just with those added responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Like, being the captain, you're always like, oh, it's not going to change my game. I think it does a little bit. You obviously feel that more pressure being the one who's leading the team out than being that player who the team kind of looks up to and who they like want to learn off. And I think you're always the one who like is always there to be able to support the teammates. I think that always is going to change your game a little bit, feeling that extra pressure. But yeah, I think the best leaders are the ones who can like turn that pressure into positive and be able to play off that. And that's how their game stays the same. They're to utilize that pressure into, making those winning performances and being able to lead the team and impact the team in the best way that they can. So I think, if I can just try to keep on keeping that positive mindset and that pressure into some sort of impact, I think is the important thing there.
Yeah, certainly, and obviously as a captain, you would want to lead from the front. So that's definitely something to look at. Yeah. But over the last couple of years with the Stars, you've played under a couple of really quality captains. You think Meg Lanning last year, and then obviously Nicole Fulton this year. What have they been like, not only for your development, but with your captaincy in a sense? Have they given you things to take from them, and have you learned off them to bring into your captaincy then in a sense?
Yeah. Being captained by Meg was obviously like unbelievable. I think going into there was something I just wanted to like look at the way she went about her things and just try and get the small things that I can. But yeah, obviously Meg and Nick are very different, but both like do an outstanding job. Like Meg being a captain for the Aussie team for how many years of being, looking at how successful her sheet is been for the past couple of years, which is outstanding. I think the way she just has that like aura of always being calm, always being collected, just logically, the way she thinks logically, I think like, she can't really be faulted at some stages of her career. But yeah, I'm always sitting there and trying to watch both of them and see small things I can take out of them, which has been pretty fun, but also kind of scary.
Yeah, brilliant people to play under, I'm sure. Now this season, obviously, the Stars at this point in time, like we said, it's only halfway through the season, maybe not quite where you wanted to be going into the season. So what were the initial talks going into this season? And from now, what are your tactics and plans? I know you probably can't give too much away, but if there is anything, kind of tell us, what's the plan from now?
Yeah, like obviously looking at the Stars lineup, we're always talked about as being that young team with little experience, but I think the first couple of games we've shown is that, like, yes, we may be a young team, but we're always up there for the fight, and to be able to like have that competition with such the big teams, like you saw Brisbane Heat, Perth Scorchers. They weren't big losses. We lost by like very, very small margins. So I think that kind of set the standard of like we're here to compete, although we're young. Yes, we'd obviously like to be a bit higher than where we are in the ladder at the moment, but I think we could just try to put ourselves in the best position we can to like make those finals. I think that's all we're really looking to do, but yeah, just win game by game.
Yeah, good. And then going back to your Big Bash debut, in your first game, you took the wicket of Elise Perry. Now, can you tell us if you remember much about it? Can you talk us through that moment, what your whole day was like on your debut, and what your kind of emotions were after that wicket in that game?
Yeah, so I'm a bit different. I'm not really one to get nervous before a game, but when I got told I was making my debut, I was in a wreck. Like, I just couldn't think straight. I couldn't, like, everything was just going so slow during the day, especially because it was a night game. I was just counting down my bag to pack 2 hours before I had to leave. I just wanted to be there and kind of get in the motions, get calm, but that didn't happen at all. It ended up being I think it was like a 10 or 7 over game or something. It was hectic. So by the time I was sitting in the dugout having a little laugh, we had 20 minutes to be able to get onto the pitch. So the hat just kind of got chucked to me and I was on the field, and I wasn't expecting to get a bowl, and then Meg just kind of pulled me over, chucked me the ball, and I was like, oh God, here we go. And then having Elise Perry and Nicole Bolton on strike, I was like, oh God, like, just don't bowl wide your first ball and you'll be fine. So yeah, just kind of strolled in, bowled one, and I was like, okay, just take a deep breath, we're fine. And then I eventually I was lucky enough to get Pez's wicket, which obviously is a big name, but I don't know if it was the best ball I've ever bowled, but I mean, I'll take it. I couldn't really think during when I got the wicket. I didn't really know what happened, but the teammates got around me and it kind of just set in that I did get a wicket. But yeah, didn't really mean much, although we didn't get to win, but oh well.
That's a pretty impressive first wicket to take. I would definitely take that, sure. But getting that one and then obviously progressing on to other games, did that maybe give you a bit more confidence going like, right, I can do this. I've got out one of the best in the world. You know, did that give you extra confidence in yourself and in your game?
I would say, well, I'm lucky enough to train with Pez in the Vic system. So it's kind of like, I don't know, when I go in there, yes, like Elise Perry's on the other end. But I've always kind of thought, I kind of see it as like a right-handed batter. Like if I can just try and nail that, because we always have meetings like before we play other teams, we always talk about like different ways we can approach different plays. So I always just think if I can hit that certain length that we talked about, or that line, or like the pace, if I can just think about that, and they'll give me the best reason to try and execute. But yeah, I think if I just get caught up in like who I'm bowling to or who I'm playing, that's where my game kind of goes downhill. So I think if I can just focus on like the small things that I want to accomplish, that's something that helps me out the most.
You've spoken before about obviously Elise being a teammate of yours with the Vics, and you spoke about Meg Lanning being a teammate of the Stars. When you speak to, a lot of people that we've spoken to have said that Meg and Elise have been idols of theirs. Were they idols of yours? And if so, what's it like being able to call them teammates and being able to lean on them for advice?
Yeah, when I was younger, my idol was always Elise Perry. I think also playing, I played soccer as well for I think 9 odd years. So I was always looking up to her like, oh, one day I could be that like soccer cricket player. Obviously, it didn't really work out, but yeah. So I was the one who always idolized Pez, and even Meg as well when I got a bit older. I was the one who was always reading Pez's book. I think I read a book 3 times. And I got the contract, and I was like, "Oh God, like I'm gonna have to go to change room with her." I was frantic the day I had to go in, but yeah, they're both very, very, very lovely human beings. So I think being able to call them teammates and learning off them is like such a blessing. So I think if I can just take that with both hands and just keep on learning off them, happy days.
Yeah, and that's a great mindset to have, obviously, to learn off these players that have been there and done it. But is that something that you actively try and do? Is it's one of those where it's like, they've been there, they've played at the highest level possible? Is it something that you actively go on like, right, I want to learn off these players and help my own game?
Yeah, I think that's what's one of the best things about being in like some of these elite setups is your players around you have that you can also use. Like they're not only teammates, they're people you can learn off as well. So if I'll often just kind of sit back a little bit and watch them like in the nets, or even when I'm bowling and I wanted to work on something. I think one way isn't always the right way. So if I can learn as many ways as I can and just try and like find the best thing that fits me. So like when I am trying to figure out to bowl slow ball in the nets, like I'll ask Annabelle Sutherland, I'll ask Pez, I'll ask Taylor Lemnick and see what kind of and also speak to the bowling coach and see like what kind of best way fits me. Just like little things like that. I think like speaking to one person is not always like the best thing. If you can speak to as many people as you can and get the best way that fits you, I think that's the best way to go about things.
Certainly. And with all of those players that we've talked about, and obviously coaches as well, what do you think the best piece of advice is that you've sort of been given, and how have you incorporated that into your cricket?
Oh, this might be a bit cheesy, but I've always been told just to like keep on smiling throughout, like when doing things. Like for example, like my Vic debut, I was like, the first thing I got told by Clint Mackay, who like presented my cap, was just remember to smile. Because I think if you get caught up in like what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what you want to do in the game, how many wickets you want to take, I think you just kind of lose like what you've actually accomplished already and what you want to like have fun during the game. So I think, yeah, if you forget why you're there and the love for your game during the moment, I think you kind of lose like what the accomplishment actually feels like at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a great bit of advice, especially from someone like him as well. But another one quickly on the Big Bash. We've obviously got the two Melbourne teams, and we had the Melbourne Derby a couple of weeks ago, where the Stars obviously got up. It was a pretty decent win, and we've got the second one coming up this weekend. How much do those games mean to you as a player, and how interesting is it when you've got that Victorian team, a tight-knit Victorian team, basically split in half? And what's it like bowling to those players that, one day they're your friend and your teammate, the next you're having to bowl to them?
Oh, I think like especially that being in the Melbourne team, the Melbourne Derby, something you froth about. You're just there waiting for it to come. I tell you what, some of the Victorian girls are the most competitive people I've ever met. So those games are a bit hectic. You always have the cheeky like banter before, whether it's a text to the player you're going up against, or you just know band is going to go down, so you just get on the field together. So yeah, but if we can just work on it's good going up these derby. I think it's always a good game because we all know each other and know how we play. So always, I think sometimes the best cricket comes out during these games. But yeah, the competitive in this like sort of team setup is outrageous. It's always the best games that if you don't want to lose them, you do not want to lose them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's those ones in the Sydney Smash as well, isn't it? It's the ones that everyone waits for, and I mean, great games and Stars way so far. So then moving on to WNCL, you made your Vic debut in February. So what was that like for you, and how much of an honour was it to play in the WNCL?
Yeah, I didn't really expect it to be the way it was. Like I always thought I would never be like one of the younger ones who came into the squad, which lucky enough I was. It was something like you really can't think that would happen. When I got told I was going to play, I kind of didn't really set in what was going to happen, but yeah, I was lucky enough. My dad came down and was there for my cap presentation, which kind of, I think from then it was kind of like, okay, this is actually happening. Like I'm actually going to play a game. But yeah, it was like surreal, like just seeing everyone, all the teammates getting around you. It's kind of like a day, although it's about the team, like it's kind of a day that's like just honed on in you, I think, which is good, but also a bit more pressure being your first game. You want to go well, but it was unreal.
Yeah, and what was the kind of change like between the T20 cricket that you've obviously, played in the WBBL the season before, and then to transfer over to the 50 over? What was that like for you? And, the swap over, I guess, obviously longer day, you're out there for longer. What was that transfer over like for you, and which one did you prefer? Do you prefer playing 2020, or do you prefer the longer format?
Changing formats can always be a bit more difficult, but I think the quicker you can change like kind of your mental setup is the better, I feel like, especially with your batting side of things. You always got to, T20 is always designed as like the quicker game, the faster game, which it is, but I think just the quicker you can incorporate that into your training as well, like the way you go about in the nets, the competitive scenarios in the nets, I think they'll always change going in from your 50 over T20 over cricket. I like better. I can't really choose. I think I've always liked, I don't know, fielding for 50 overs is always rough, but no, I can't choose. Like bowling in one day cricket and bowling in T20 cricket is two completely different things, but I love them both.
That's fine. Fair answer.
I was going to say, at least you love your cricket then. So at least, if it's supposed to make decisions, at least you just like bowling.
Yeah, at least I love both.
Yeah, at least you're going out there knowing, right, I can do this no matter what. But just on switching between 20 over and 50 over, is it one that takes a while to sort of switch to? If you're bowling in a 50 over game, is it one of those where I've got to think, well, right, I've got to play this differently, or do you just go out there, try and bowl your best bowl and take it from there?
I've never found it to be too difficult with the bowling side of things. Like I think you always kind of rely on like the bowling coaches around me, especially like Clint in the Melbourne Stars setup. We've always kind of had those base planes, and they're both very similar to each other, which is always a blessing. It's less thinking to do, but no, they're both quite similar. I don't find it too difficult to change over. I think batting is a bit, for me, like my opinion, batting would be a bit more harder, but I'm a low end bat in this, so they're both not similar. They're both quite similar at the back end, but yeah, I don't think it's too difficult. But it's definitely a shift that you want to change. You want to change early and as early into preparation as you can, I think.
Yeah, and how good is that from your point of view? That obviously, you've played a lot of T20 cricket now. How good is it to have that, the ability to play 50 over cricket in your arsenal as well, to say, right, if a red ball opportunity comes down later down the line, that you can adapt and you can play longer form cricket. How good do you think that is for you?
Yeah, I think being able to adapt to something that you want to kind of get under your sleeve early and get it in your toolbox, especially with the female game and the way it's changing now, and being able to play those longer format games, but also be able to play the short format as well. I think that's really special. And I think the quicker you can learn to adapt and the more you can do it, you'll just learn from it, I think, which is the best way to go about it. The more you do, the more you'll learn from it. So yeah, just keep on learning. And
yeah, nice. And then the WNCL resumes after Big Bash season is finished. So is there anything in particular that you're maybe looking forward to about that, or getting going again?
Yeah, I love my Victorian teammates. So I think being back under the one shed and in the one change room is always going to be exciting. And all the banter that happens after the tournament's always fun. I think that's one of the favorite parts going back. But yeah, going back into the training, week to week training, I think will be fun. Training's one of my favorite things. So especially now that I finished school, I'll be there full time, which is always fun. So I can't wait for that. And yeah, just the games that we can play as a team and the teams back together, I think that'll be pretty special.
Yeah, and you mentioned school there. So you just finished year 12?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So how's that been for you, juggling that and playing professional cricket? Obviously, you would have played Big Bash last year, and obviously as well. What was that whole situation like for you?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the student who always loved school. I think especially this past year, school has just been like a big stretch for me. It's been hard to balance them, especially when you like one a lot more than you like the other. I really wanted to prioritize cricket, but the teams I've been in, Stars and Vic, they've always made sure that I've prioritized school, and that I did that well, and I did it, and I just completed it. So yeah, they've been a big help, especially with year 12 and the extra commitments that I've got asked to do from the school. But it's been tough. It's been rough. Some of my teammates have become little tutors on the tour, which has been really helpful. And I think if they weren't there, I definitely wouldn't have got the grades that I have so far. So yeah, without my little tutors on tour, I'm sure I would have struggled a lot more than I did.
Yeah. Can you name who the tutors are?
Yeah. So during Big Bash last year, and even for Vic this year, Nicole Fulton has been a massive help. She's just been like a person who's I've been put under a wing in the past 2 years and just try to learn a lot of her. She's a great person who not only look up to the cricket, but also like personal attributes. And yeah, she's a good maths tutor. I will say that. She helped me through year 11 and year 12 maths. And Annabelle Sutherland, she's also a massive help. She also studies as well, so I think I got dragged to a couple of her study sessions just so I could get some of my work done. But she also did a lot of help with my year 12 PE subject. I think without her, I would have done a lot less practice exams than I should have, but she got me through it, which is good.
Nice. So shout out Annabelle and Nick. They helped you through
definitely.
it. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Love it.
That's brilliant. That's wonderful. You can't hate that at all. But If we move on to some more like sort of shorter questions, what's your favourite cricket memory that you've had so far in your career?
Oh, I don't know. Probably make my Vic debut. I don't think I can go past that. That's pretty special.
Brilliant. What are the goals for the future?
Goals in the future, just keep on trying to have fun. I think, yeah, if I can just keep on loving the game and learning about it, that's kind of where I want to go. Wherever that ends up, so be it. But yeah, don't want to really have one big goal of playing for Australia one day, doing this one day. I think if I can just keep on making my game grow and learning, that's kind of what I want to prioritize, and wherever that takes me is where it takes me.
Brilliant. Love that mindset. That's going to get you far, I reckon. But we're going to move on now to some short, quick fire questions as we coin them, if that's all good. Some cricket related, some not.
Okay.
So learn a little bit more about you. So I know we answered this one before, but just to recap, WBBL or WNCL cricket?
Both. Love them. I can't choose.
T20 or Test cricket?
Test cricket.
Non-cricket related one. You're stuck on an island. What person and what two things would you want with you?
Person, I bring my best mate, Poppy Gardner, and I would bring my phone and a soccer ball.
Nice. So you're in the 19th over of a match, and you've got a choice of which way you'd prefer to win it. Would you rather win the game with 3 sixes or win it with a hat trick?
Hat trick.
Nice. The bowler makes sense. Favorite shapes flavor?
Oh, chicken crimpy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beach or backyard cricket?
Oh, backyard cricket.
Can't go wrong. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
100% agree.
Good.
Yeah.
Has to be there.
And you've got a new ally in Lily Harvey who also agrees.
Nice.
Yes.
I back it, absolutely.
Orange juice or apple juice?
So you can't. They're not the same. If it's freshly squeezed, I'm going orange juice 100% of the day. If it's from a bottle, I'm going apple juice.
I don't think anyone's ever given us that answer before. I
Yeah.
love people.
I'm a very, very picky eater when it comes to my food and drink. So I'm very, very particular.
All right. Next one, food related then. Favorite cuisine?
I'm gonna go Indian.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes.
Good call.
Sure.
So you're on a game show, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you've got a chance to win $1 million. Which friend do you phone to win you that million?
Oh God. I'm gonna go Annabelle.
Maybe if it's a maths question, that's Nicole calling up there.
Yeah, if it's math, I'm going Nicole. If it's to do with some sort of sciencey stuff, I'm going to Annabelle.
Nice.
Fair.
So what we've learned from this is Annabelle is very talented at pretty much everything, not just cricket.
Yep, she is one of those ones who can't really do anything wrong, which is good for her. She's an unbelievable talent in all aspects of life, so I can't fault her.
Yeah, and the final one, a bit of a how's that legend question. This is porridge a cereal? Yes or no?
No, I would say it's more of a soup than a cereal.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like we've obviously been doing this for months, and we still haven't settled on what we're going with yet. So it's kind of whatever you like. But no, I'd say no. I think that's right. I'd go with saying
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a cereal.
no. Anyway, that's all the quick fire questions we have. I think you passed. Yeah. We can agree with those ones.
Yes.
But yeah, that's all we got for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. All the best with all your upcoming cricket. We'll be tuning in.
Too easy. Thank you, guys.
And another top edge. Could she have a second, McKenna? Yes, Lindsay Smith's got a third catch. She's the destroyer, the 17-year-old Rhys McKenna.
So that was Rhys McKenna. Obviously, about time we've got a Melbourne Stars WBBL guest. It was a great one to get to have Rhys to be the first one. It was great to obviously speak to her, me knowing her originally as well in the past. So it was good to obviously talk to her about her cricket, growing up, obviously playing on the peninsula and then moving into state stuff as well. But yeah, it was really interesting to sort of talk about how she's broken into the Stars side, and her first wicket being Elise Perry. It's not a bad one to get, is it?
No, it's definitely not. And when we spoke to her, she wasn't like, yeah, I got Elise Perry. It's just like, yeah, I got Elise Perry. And I was like, you know what? I admire your I admire how calm you are about that. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, really good interview, and I really enjoyed it. So next week we'll be joined by Western Australia and Perth Scorchers batter keeper Maddie Dark. So make sure you tune in for that one. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at How's That TCP. You can send us an email at howsthatthecricketpodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave us a rating on Spotify, which would help us out hugely and we'd really appreciate it. But that is all from me this week.
Likewise, and just one more reminder in case you didn't know, England are T20 Men's World Cup champions.
How's that? You missed the